Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So, Tarek returning series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and I got a very fun and very unexpected video for you guys this Saturday, because as of this morning, about 2 hours ago, SRG320 updated the core and updated the update all branch version of it. So if you've been playing on the October core because you don't test unofficial builds, if you update your MiSTer today, you're going to be using the same core I've been using for all of these tests. Additionally, he has added gourad shading in as well to the core, so a lot of games are going to look a lot better. Just to make sure you are playing on the current core, after you run update all and you go into console, you scroll down, you should see a date of today, which is going to be the 23rd. Trust me, I've got a lot of unstables in here, but you're going to see 24, 323. That is the current core. It's the one that we've been testing, and now it has gourad shading in it as well. So we're going to go through some of the games, do a little bit of a setup guide to help you out if you haven't been playing around with Saturn yet, and just have a ton of fun. But before we get too far involved, let me do a huge favor. Go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But getting right into Christmas Nights into Dreams, I felt like doing a little bit of a celebratory vibe because this does have gourad shading now. This game looks so much better. This shading methodology in VDP1 was not yet included in the core, and it sometimes didn't look correct if it was trying to function. Now today, all of these games should be looking much better that use this actual implementation in VDP1. Now do be aware that's not every single Sega Saturn game. I'm going to show you guys just the hits today and games that have been improved on the current core or a couple cores ago. And last time I showed you Nights into Dreams, I said it played perfectly, but it did have some visual issues. That seems to all be ironed out as of the current core, and getting gourad shading in is just so awesome because it's so endemic to the look of Sega Saturn. Not having it in the core, you could definitely tell that some games didn't look as good as they should. Now, just because this is a new version of the core and update all does not mean it is done yet. There are still updates coming and still games that don't function 100%. So this is not the final release candidate of the core. I just feel like SRG320 must have felt like it was good enough to give you guys a new update all release. And that should definitely be celebrated. He's been working on this core near to 2 years now, it seems, and he's gone through a lot to get this to you guys. So definitely leave a comment down below thanking him. I'm sure maybe he reads these video comments every once in a while. And again, if you're not part of his Patreon, I'll leave a link to the description below in that as well, because he does send updates about what he's working on as far as fixes are concerned. But the performance in Christmas Nights into Dreams is just spectacular. The frame rate is correct, all the visuals look good, the controls are there. This is just like playing on a real Sega Saturn as of today. I cannot tell anything in the footage or the gameplay that would lead me to believe this is not perfect, but if you see anything whatsoever, do leave me a comment down below, because I depend on you guys to notice things. I captured this and went directly into editing 10 minutes later, so this is a quick turn and burn video for me to make sure everyone knows it's an update all and help you with a little bit of a setup guide. If you want to play Christmas Nights into Dreams or regular nights today, you can 100% do that on the core. You're going to have a spectacular time. The music, the visuals, the controls are just there. If there's anything wrong with it, again, I cannot tell, and that's what we want out of these cores. A one-to-one experience compared to real hardware, and this is definitely a game you would not be able to tell the difference if you were playing on MiSTer and you couldn't actually see MiSTer. Now moving over to Daytona USA, if you're new to the core or if you've just been playing the October version, I want to go over some of the different options we're going to have in here. I'm going to spread them out across the video. This is an update video as well as a testing video. You'll see here you have different aspect ratios. Honestly, it's going to be on 4:3 for the most part. You have that corrected aspect ratio or original. You've got scan doubler and border and composite blend. And don't forget, when you first start this core up, if you haven't been playing Sega Saturn on MiSTer yet, you do need to define all of the Saturn buttons in the menu. If you've done this once, it should adhere to this new version and update all. But if this is your first time playing, it will not be there. And then you go ahead and just pick whatever game you want. But moving over to Daytona USA, this one again just seems perfect, and I'm trying to hit the big Saturn games, the ones that everyone are going to test first. This is definitely not the best port of Daytona USA. The Model 2 original is much better, but this is what we played back in the day on Sega Saturn, and we were happy to get it. And the nice part is, on the current core, it's infinitely playable, it looks incredible, and the nice part is, at least on my MiSTer, the sound is 100% seeming like it should. Now, if you are on the 2.5V 128MB RAM module, you may not get the same performance. I highly recommend you upgrade to the 3.0V RAM. That's going to give you a lot better performance, and in some instances, a lot better sound. But otherwise, this is just an incredible experience, and again, one that seems to be very close to one-to-one with real hardware. Now that the sound is so much better, it is just a fun time. So go ahead and listen for like 35 seconds. I'll come back and show you more news.
3, 2, 1, go! And they're underway.
And now that's going to be stuck in your head all day long, just like it will be mine, probably for the next week at least. It's so hard to get Daytona USA soundtrack out of your brain. But as we move over to Sonic R, another racing game, not as good as Daytona, but as pretty, if not prettier, you're going to see that there's visual improvements here as well. Now, I don't love Sonic R. It is a very fun game to look at. It's a very intriguing premise. It just doesn't control very well, and it's not the 3D Sonic game we wanted on Sega Saturn. But as far as testing the core, testing all of the different VDP1 and VDP2 implementations, it's an excellent game to show. But leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think of Sonic R. I know there are fans for this game out there, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, of all the things Sega could have given us back in the Saturn era as far as Sonic and 3D are concerned, I don't think this is what anyone expected, and a lot of people would have preferred a platformer. But outside of trying to rewrite Sega history, all of the performance, all of the shading, all of the visuals, all of the controls here work like they would on real hardware, which is, I can say, the controls definitely are wiggly and you're going to be bouncing off the walls a ton, but that is just Sonic R in a nutshell. But I will say this is one of, in my opinion, the prettiest 3D games on the Sega Saturn. Traveler's Tales did an awesome job utilizing the Saturn's unique hardware architecture to bring a game that looked incredible to the console. It's just that the gameplay and overall controls are slightly lacking. But in the current core today, this just looks spectacular. The sound is perfect, everything is here to make you think you're playing a real Sega Saturn. Because if the core is doing its job, it is just a Sega Saturn in a different form factor. FPGA code, if done correctly, replicates the entire original hardware, so basically, if you think about it more philosophically, it is a Sega Saturn, just one made in 2024 and not one made in the 90s. But this has just improved so much. All of the visuals here have gotten so much better in 2024, and again, if you're playing on the update All Core from October of last year, you're going to be getting a completely different experience out of your Sega Saturn. Other games that have improved both in speed and visuals, Virtua Fighter 2 here today feels absolutely perfect. I mention this in every video, but if you do see the interlacing lines, that's because this runs in 480i and this is not deinterlaced, so that's not an issue with the core. It's just how the video is presented. Maybe there'll be a deinterlacer in the core later on in its lifespan, maybe there won't be whatsoever. We're not quite sure, but if you did go direct video into something like a RetroTink 4K, you could use that deinterlacer and you wouldn't see this whatsoever. But the performance here on Virtua Fighter 2 again is incredible. The visuals are perfect. The controls are exactly what I would expect them to be for Virtua Fighter 2. This is another 10 out of 10 game and a 10 out of 10 experience. And again, the audio has improved greatly since the last time we played it, so listen for 25 seconds. I'll be back with more games.
1, ready, go!
That just sounds incredible. I have no issues with it whatsoever, but if you are having any sound issues on the core in games that I'm telling you sound good, check your RAM version. I will leave a link in the description below to the 3.0 module. It's not very expensive and it's a very quick upgrade, and it is one that I do recommend. Because the Saturn core is definitely sensitive to RAM, so a 2.9V or a 3.0V module is going to be where it is at. If you do have any issues though, tell me down below because I do like to track these things and we do talk about them on Discord. But as far as Virtual Fighter 2 is concerned, I'm just giving this a 10 out of 10. Infinitely playable, looks great, performs well, the music is there. There's nothing about this experience on today's update all core that would make me think I wasn't just playing real Sega Saturn hardware outside of the interlacing lines if I wasn't on a scaler into my TV. Now moving over to another one of Sega Saturn's best games of all time, we're going to take a look at Burning Ranges, because last time I showed this to you, there was a lot of shading issues and a lot of graphical glitches maybe about a month and a half ago. Now today, those seem to be mostly ironed out. I will say that this game always looks a little strange even on real hardware, because it's really pushing the Sega Saturn to its technical limits, so it can be very difficult to say where some sort of visual glitch is part of the core and where some sort of visual glitch is just how it looked in the original engine. Once this core is finally released, I will take a look side-by-side comparison, real hardware to MiSTer FPGA to compare them, but today this is infinitely more playable. You can get through the entire game, the graphics look good, there's no freezing. It's another awesome game, and honestly having it in the US version is where you want to be, because there's so much voice acting in this game to help you navigate through the levels that you're going to need. So if you don't have an optical disc emulator on your Sega Saturn, if you want to go buy a North American copy of Burning Rangers, you better bring your wallet, because it's getting close to a rent payment these days depending on where you live. And you'll see here that every once in a while some of the textures pop in and out. That is something you can see on occasion on real hardware too. When I mean Burning Rangers was pushing the Saturn to the edge, I mean the Saturn is probably literally sweating underneath its console shell trying to run this game. Obviously I mean figuratively, but it is fun all the same. But this again is just a visual improvement. It's another game you can play on the core, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that play this maybe for the first time or the first time in years on MiSTer FPGA. So tell me down below if you're familiar with Burning Rangers, if you played it back in the 90s. I had this game, I traded it in for like $10 or something on Dreamcast, and I've regretted it ever since. But let's talk about some more core features and some things you need to know about if you haven't yet played around with the core. You'll see here there is a cartridge, and don't forget the Saturn had a cartridge port where you could do different carts. The most important one is going to be the different RAM cartridges, the 1 and 4 megabyte ones. You'll see here, and I'll show this in a preview video coming up, something like Gouraud Fight can use the 1 megabyte or 4 megabyte cartridge, but it will have to be set within the menu. So if you see a game asking for a RAM cart, start with the 4 megabyte. If that doesn't work, move back to the 1, and you should be totally fine. Now, the number one game that shows the Gourad shading in effect is going to be Pandemonium. Definitely not one of the best Sega Saturn games of all time, but it's a ton of fun, and I just recently showed it in a testing video last month when it finally started running full speed. This now looks perfect. There's no weirdness in the textures on the ground. All of the shading in the background is there. It's a much more dynamic image, and it looks way truer to what a real Sega Saturn would be. And Gourad shading seemed to be the last big visual feature that needed to be put into the core, and that's probably why you're seeing this on Update All today. And again, it's just a night and day difference. The shading makes such a fundamental difference in the art style, all the different colorways and effects that the developers used. Having the shading come in really completes the overall picture, and that is just a good time. It's not like without Gourad shading, these games are unplayable, and for a lot of people, if you didn't remember what they looked like, you might think it looked totally normal and true to real hardware. But now that we have this feature within the core, as you play around, you're just going to be seeing a completely different picture in a good way. But I am very curious, who's been testing on the unstable nightly updates, and who's been playing on the October core? Because I know a lot of people have left comments saying that they're still using the October Update All core, and they don't really like manually installing these cores on their MiSTer. So tell me down below, have you been keeping up with the updates in the actual MiSTer ecosystem, or have you just been watching the videos? And trust me, there's plenty more preview videos coming. We're going to be doing a lot more on the core, because it's still going to be getting updates, still going to be getting fixes, and there still is a lot of fun to have. But as far as the current core today and Update All, it is spectacular. It is not done, it is not finished, but what does work is incredible. I'm going to be doing a lot of testing on it. But short of that, that's the current situation with the MiSTer FPGA Sega Saturn core. The new version is an Update All, so if you update your MiSTers, you're going to have the 323 core come down. It adds so many more improvements since the last Update All core. Gourad shading is in, so many more games perform so much better, and the best part is for the games that just work, you can really ignore the fact that you're using MiSTer, pretend you have a real Sega Saturn, and you wouldn't know the difference. Short of that, happy Saturday, and I'll see you guys next time, probably tomorrow. Bye-bye.